Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF Podcast.
Hey, I got a bone to pick.
Guys, I am so fired up.
Sleep deprived and all, I'm happy to be here.
You probably cut up your hot dog. You don't need it on a bun.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF Podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network to take you through the world of college basketball in a post-Labor Day existence. And Tio, I got some big breaking news for you here. The first Monday in September, every single year here in the United States of America is Labor Day. And on Labor Day, your kids don't go to school and you don't go to work. I know you were a little bit surprised on Monday when your children were home and you had no idea why, but that is why they were home. There was this holiday here in our country called Labor Day where you don't have to work. It's like the end of summer. It's a 3-day weekend where we can all celebrate with a barbecue and a cookout and a cold beer and maybe one last chance to go jump in a pool.
I had no idea. I just knew my kids were home. I had no idea why they were home, but that's neither here nor there. I was getting some work done and I'm in a different situation to where, like, I guess when you technically you work for nobody, you never stop working. It's kind of a weird thing. So so I didn't even know. I was like, man, it's Monday. Why are my kids home? I'm just going to let it breathe. I don't know what this is. My wife wasn't home. The kids were home and I was having a good time. So I figured might as well work a little bit.
So you were working on a Mountain West preseason breakdown.
Yeah.
Your wife's not home. You're working at home on something that you do, frankly, for yourself, for your season prep. And the kids are what? Just taking over the house?
Yeah, basically. That's what's happening. Damon was upstairs playing video games. Harper was with her mother. And I didn't think anything about it. Another thing is, too, is like Labor Day was the last day. It was 97 degrees and not a cloud in the sky. It was so warm. Like, I'm not sure it would have been all that comfortable to be outside anyway. So we were just in the house and I was working and I didn't know why everybody was home. I just thought it was like an in-service day for the teachers until you guys told me when I sent over my preview stuff.
Oh,
I will say this, Dame, if you're listening, your dad is going to have no idea about what the school holidays are. So if you ever have a day where you just decide, you know what, I don't feel like going to school today, just show up and say, Dad, it's a holiday. Make something up. He's not going to have any idea.
First day of the NCAA tournament. Dad's a teacher's in service.
Yeah, that's right.
Here's the
and he'll
thing.
get me too.
When you think about it, how would you check? How would you know? You're not calling up the school. You're not trying to cause problems that aren't there.
All right, makes sense.
I have the calendar. Just didn't happen to look at it. It just slipped my mind. I knew the kids weren't at school. It just slipped my mind.
You know what? I don't blame you a bit for working on Labor Day because, folks, it's coming. That train is coming down the tracks. We are 61 days away from college basketball season, essentially 2 months away. And nobody covers the preseason like we do. We're going to cover media days all across the country like you don't see on any other network. The preseason for us is in season. October is in season. And so as Rob looks at his travel schedule and his eyes get real big, it's more news to come, frankly. But the fact is, gentlemen, I'm juiced for this college basketball season for a variety of reasons. I'll give you 3 right off the bat. Number 1, you have a program that's trying to do something that only John Wooden can say that he's done. That history is in not its own class, but a class that it's like an Indiana Jones movie. Like that pearl that doesn't get touched ever. That's what UCLA, winning as much as they did under Wooden, that's what UConn's trying to go for. Especially in this current era, that's really hard to fathom. Number 2, most compelling freshman in the sport, and we'll get to him later, I know, since Zion Williamson and Cooper Flagg. The hype machine is real. We can argue about that hype machine, and if we ever blow things out of proportion, of course we're going to. He's a specimen. He's extraordinary. We all can't wait to watch him play. And number 3, I think there's a real argument for who the number 1 team in the country is. And within that argument, you have 2 things happening. Number 1, Nate Oates and the unbelievable job he's done at Alabama with Mark Sears. And number 2, within that, the spotlight, fellas, is on Hunter Dickinson. and Kansas for unfinished business. So yeah, if you couldn't tell, Rob, I'm excited, and I know you are too.
Yeah, I'm fired up for a lot of the reasons you just mentioned. Obviously, UConn having a chance at three-peat makes me pretty happy when it comes to college basketball season, and the idea of Cooper Flagg coming in and having the impact, anything close to what we saw at Peach Jam in 2023, or what we saw over the summer when he was working out with the gold medal winning Team USA team, right? Is it Zion Williamson and Anthony Davis, the only freshmen that have won National Player of the Year? Zion Williamson, Kevin Durant,
and Kevin Durant. Yep.
And seeing him try to make a run at that award is something I think is going to be fascinating. But the thing that's more interesting to me is seeing some of these other programs. You mentioned Alabama and Iowa State, Baylor, a Houston, some of these schools that are a little bit off of the basketball.
Baylor's going to be so good.
They're going to be so good. A little bit off of the basketball beaten path that have turned themselves into stalwarts in the top 10, right? Like that part of it's fascinating to me. I can't wait to see what Gonzaga is going to be this season. I think everybody is underrating them, and I think they have a very, very, very real chance to have this be the team that finally gets Mark Few cutting down the nets in that first weekend in April, right? I can't wait to see the battle at the top of the Big 12. I can't wait to see what Purdue does without Zach Edey, right? And I also can't wait to see who the hell wins the Big Ten Conference. Theo, at some point, you're going to have to answer for this prediction of Michigan State winning the Big Ten this year, calling them the best team in the conference, which apparently Las Vegas agrees with. So
Las Vegas agrees. I caught more hell for that. Las Vegas agrees with me.
Just hold on before you explain what you do for the people that aren't aware. Okay.
Explain what? No, I've been doing the preseason, like these preseason power rankings for each conference. And what I do is, look, a lot of people there's a lot of groupthink in what we do. There's a lot of people that just tend to look at each other's stuff and then find it out. I don't look at anybody's information. I don't read any of this thing. The only thing I look at, to be honest with you, I look at Borzello's transfer list, which is something that's bookmarked on my internet every year. I look at that.
Is it the comings and goings one? It's like, these are the guys that are gone. These are the guys that are coming back.
These are expected to return, incoming transfers, incoming freshmen. I look at that and the people that departed. That's all I look at. I match up who people have signed with the coach and the coaching style. I like that. I like Michigan State's pieces. Guys, and you don't need to be 13 deep. You need to be about 7 or 8 deep. And those pieces need to fit together. There's a lot of sophomores on that Michigan State team that I think are going to take a massive leap this year. I think there's going to be really, really good. And in a conference where there's no more Zach Edey, there's a lot of really good players. The most talented players are young that have no experience. I think Michigan State can actually run through the conference and win it. The top 10 of that league is going to be a jumbled up mess. It could be a 2-game spread. That's what you said. It's going to be a mess.
Was it you that texted us? I think it was you that texted our group chat and said, is it possible for everybody in the Big Ten to go 500?
Yeah, that's what So I think once you get to that number 10, 11 through 18, like that's just going to kind of flutter on. But like Rutgers is a hard team we talk about Cooper Flagg and how talented he is. Ayers Bailey's a dog. He's really good. The very real Tracy McGrady comparisons. Dylan Harper's a really solid, steady, really good freshman that's going to average a lot of points because he just doesn't make mistakes. But can young freshmen win in the Big Ten? So that 1 through 10 is nuts. I think the continuity a little bit of what Michigan State has, the supreme athleticism, Xavier Booker taking a step forward, like those things could all happen. And I think they're going to happen. I think Michigan State's going to be good. So I don't want to hear it.
So here's the thing. I'm going to break your balls on it, especially if you end up being wrong. But I actually don't like.
How often does that happen, Rob? How often does that happen?
More than
I care to elaborate. But anyway,
let's just ask Maria Oglesby how often you're wrong.
Dude, I can't put dishes in the dishwasher right when it comes
to
that.
Let's face it. The title of the podcast is DTF. Nobody in this podcast is right.
Yeah, it should be. It's DTF. It should be WTF. That's what it should be.
Right, anyway, quick, on Michigan State, I'll just say I don't hate it. My concern.
You hated it initially.
There's 3. Well, I think that they're going to be good. I think they're like a borderline top 25-ish kind of a team. And I don't know if there's anybody at the top of the Big Ten that isn't. But what I'll say is I'm worried about whether or not Jeremy Fears can take that leap coming off of the gunshot injury.
I'm worried about
I'm worried about Xavier Booker taking a leap as well. I'm worried about Jaden Akins like finding a way to actually be. We've been waiting for him to be like the guy for a long time. But my single biggest concern is that I think the best way that you can get this group to play is by basically going kind of like 4 around 1, 5 out, not worrying about throwing the ball into the post, not being totally reliant on winning every single rebounding battle. Some minutes with Cohen Carr at the 5 and Xavier Booker at the 4. You know, Frankie Fiddler out there playing small ball 4. And I'm not convinced that is what Tom Izzo is going to. Like, I can't see him. He doesn't seem wired to be the guy. He wouldn't play Miles Bridges and Jaren Jackson III at the 4 and the 5 together. I don't think he's going to do it with Xavier Booker at the 5. So that is my only concern. I think we're going to.
I'm not relying on Izzo to change. I think there's been some addition by subtraction with some of the people that left.
Not a lie either there. No lies have been.
So I think it's actually going to help a lot. Anyway, we went to Louisville, or we didn't go to Louisville. We went with Louisville.
Yes.
You went with Louisville to the Bahamas. How was the trip?
Go ahead, Rob.
It was awesome. I was incredibly impressed with Louisville. Like, I don't think I could have been more impressed with how good they are. Like, that is a top 15, top 20-ish kind of a team. And I think that there's an argument to be made that they are Duke's biggest challenger in the ACC this season. I think North Carolina's in that conversation. I think your boys down at Clemson are in that conversation.
Virginia.
I think Virginia, you and RC with this Virginia thing, like, you're probably going to be right. I got to see it before like I buy all the way in, but you're probably going to be right. But Louisville's going to be damn good, man. They're like 11 deep. Chucky Hepburn is an absolute dog defensively. Cason Pryor is a menace. The kid from Charleston, I am blanking on his name in the moment. James Scott.
Yep.
James Scott has a chance to be a pro. I love Javon Had. Like, I just love what they've built. I love Pat Kelsey's energy, and maybe I'm just like buying into the bandwagon fanda. My single biggest takeaway though is that Damon Oglesby, like, I've never seen somebody less afraid of a moment than this dude. Like, we were going out to dinner the first night we're down there, right? It's me, my wife, T.O., his wife, and both of his kids. And Deontay Wilder walks by. What's his name, T.O.?
You got it right. That's right.
No, the nickname is the Bronze Bomber, right?
The Bronze Bomber.
The Bronze Bomber.
Hardest hitting right hand ever.
So he walks by, and like me, my wife, T.O.'s wife are sitting there like, I don't know. T.O.'s like, oh my God, did you hear who that was? And we're like, I don't know. Who was that? He's like, that's Deontay Wilder. And I had to Google him for a second to figure out who he was and remember who he was. But then we're like, wow, that's incredible. And like, should we go say hello? And Dame's like, don't worry, I got this. Boom. Walks right over, shakes the dude hand, gets a picture with him. Like, that's the heavyweight champion of the world right there. And your son is just walking over. And then at practice the next day, he walks in like he owns the place.
Like he owns the joint.
Yeah. He walks in,
grabbed a ball.
Grabbed a ball. Like, they're in the middle of shoot around. He just grabbed a ball, go out there. Like, he's part of the team. I was like, what is it? Who is this kid? It made me think that like young T.O. Fanta was
he's his father's
menace.
son.
Yes.
Yeah. He's his father's son. I mean, let's make no mistake about it. All you have to do is see Damon Oglesby to know who his dad is. This kid wants to go out and bury everybody.
Dude, he was ready.
He's always ready. So
he played basketball with Johnny Kelsey, Pat's kid, who Louisville fans are going to love.
Yep.
They went out there and played. Damon hit a couple shots, got a scholarship offer. So still waiting on the Clemson offer, but we got a Louisville one.
There you go.
This all ties together because I had the basketball tournament in Louisville, and it was one of the more enjoyable weeks of the entire year, just spending time with the people there and going to the restaurants locally, and all the restaurants. You just stop at the bar and they're all talking Louisville basketball. Yep. That's all they care about. That's all they eat, breathe, sleep. And so it was just refreshing to be sitting there in July and hearing people say, we're so starved. We're so starved to win. And this team, as you just brought up, is equipped to win and win now, make the NCAA tournament. Yeah,
win some games.
Believe it. Win a lot of games. Terrence Edwards has NCAA tournament experience, and without him, James Madison doesn't do what they do. To have a reinforcement like a Rain Smith, Chucky Hepburn, it was very clear out at the TBT when talking with Louisville people and on the staff. They're like, look, we thought Chucky Hepburn was good. And Terrence, I'm sure you have thoughts on this. But they're like, we've learned entirely new things about him in our system. Sometimes you learn something about a player because they're playing under a new staff and playing in a new style. And let's face it, Pat Kelsey and Greg Gard are very, very different in how they want to play offense.
Yeah, certainly are. And that floor opening up for him really changed what his capabilities, what he can do. His foot's on the gas pedal from the second that ball's inbound. And Rob will vouch for this. During those games, you could tell it's an older team, and they recruited really well because they figured out, veteran players who've won before, who've played for guys that coach really well. I mean, you look up and down that roster, Chucky Hepburn of Wisconsin. Greg's a great coach up there. Javon Hadley played for Tad Boyle at Colorado. Terrific coach. Kason Pryor, Abdul Rahim down at South Florida. Like, these are guys that have been coached. They got to the next best play so quickly. And I know that sounds very, I don't know what it's a little too much. It's a little wordy, the next best play, but it was amazing. There were a couple of possessions, Rob, and you'll vouch, like the team tried to switch something up on them and they just fixed it. I mean, right away. They had so many assists and they moved the ball so well and so unselfishly. It was amazing to watch. And you throw in with some young talent and James Scott, who he's got a chance. He's got a chance. Do I think he's a lottery pick? Not right now, but he's got a chance to be one later.
And Ruth does too. Like, we didn't talk about him enough.
Well, he was really good. And awesome. He's the only freshman on the team. And, 13 new scholarships, 11 of which are going to play this year. They're going to have they're going to have some continuity with some guys come back next year. But man, what a fun time. I had a great time. I ate good. I slept good. My kids had a ball, and it was a lot of fun to watch some basketball. And it kind of screwed me up, gentlemen, because I usually get into basketball mode about right now, right after Labor Day, if I know when Labor Day is. Like, I usually get into basketball mode about right now. I've been in basketball mode since we left, which is a gift and a curse, because like it fired me up just enough to hope these things keep going. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. The biggest takeaway I had overall was how quickly that staff was able to get that group of kids. And it's not kids, like I think there's like 4 fifth-year seniors, a 6th-year senior on that roster. Noah Waterman is actually older than Fanta. And then a bunch of like upperclass. I think there's 3 underclassmen on the entire roster that are going to play. Getting them to buy in Fanta was like this. I was so incredibly impressed with how quickly that happened.
Well, Pat is elite at getting his kids to buy in. If you can't buy in for that guy, you're not going to buy in for anybody. So Pat Kelsey is going to be able to do that consistently. The other thing is it's Louisville. And this is why we have been as harsh on Louisville as we have been recently. Back in December, I went off on the Kenny Payne era on our network, and the next day had a couple of people in the college basketball world that said that was a little bit harsh. And it
wasn't harsh enough. I don't even remember what you said. It doesn't matter what you said. It wasn't harsh enough.
And you know what, guys? The fact is, Louisville basketball hasn't been Louisville basketball in recent years. It's been an embarrassment to that namesake. And the fans deserve better. And frankly, college basketball deserves better. When Louisville's on, it's better for the sport. So for me, I'm not surprised by the kids that he brought with him from Charleston. T.O., we've seen some of those kids play, and they play hard. They're high major level ready players. They're not going to get fazed by anybody. Chucky Hepburn was looking for a new destination. Terrence Edwards was looking to level up to a high major. And Noah Waterman, Javon Hadley, they've got depth. They've got numbers. So I think I agree with you on the depth piece, Rob. I think that they've got more numbers than I thought they would have coming into this season. Now I just want to see it all come to fruition. And I think, what I do think the overarching takeaway here is the ACC got better when Pat Kelsey got hired by Louisville, and the ACC will be better. There's a lot that happened in the offseason that signals the ACC is going to be improved and is going to have more of a marquee in-season headline-worthy name than it's had in the past couple of years. Not saying the NCAA tournament success has not happened, but I do believe that, because it did this past year, but I do believe that this league evolved in this past offseason, and we're going to see some real depth. I like Wake Forest. I like Tyler Johnson. I like that Hunter Salas and Efton Reed are back. I think Steve Forbes. Think about this. Wake Forest hasn't made the tournament in 8 years going into 2025. It's time for that drought. It's time for that drought to end. No time like the present. And that's what I get a lot of, Rob, in the ACC. There's no time like the present for many of these programs. Virginia, it's time to get off the mat. Louisville, it's time to get off the mat. Sometimes something's got to give in a league, and I think we're going to see that this year.
Yeah, you know what? I can't wait. And this, I gave you guys a homework assignment to come up with your favorite storyline outside of the like obvious storylines for one of them. I think for me, it is Louisville being back, Kentucky having this like new
state of basketball
energy. The state of basketball in the state of Kentucky. And you combine all that with the fact that now Kentucky's in-league rival Arkansas is kind of in the same situation where you have these three fan bases that are incredibly passionate about the sport of college basketball with completely new rosters and new coaches and new staffs, and how that is all going to kind of come together. You know, we saw it when we did KSR, right? With the callers that we had that were arguing about whether or not John Calipari is going to get a round of applause when he comes back to Rupp Arena this year, right?
He needs a round of applause. He needs one. Do we realize? Let's just think back to when he took that job. They needed it. They needed an injection of energy in anything that lasts 10 years, guys. In college hoops.
Well, I'll say this. This year, no, you boo the hell out of him when he walks in that door because he left you for your league rival. That is what you do as a fan. In 5 years, you got to put him on the wall of honor or whatever it is, the ring of honor. Like he's a legendary coach at Kentucky, and you can celebrate that once you get past the fact that he left for a rival and brought a bunch of his players. Does that make sense? Like
it was the weirdest firing / resignation / I'm leaving. Like 3 days, not 3 days before he took that job, Kentucky fans were ready to fire him. He leaves, and then they feel jaded. What? Like Kentucky fans are not the victim. Like you're not a victim. You're not a victim. Yeah, this was a very mutual thing, and we all know it. But now, if you want to play
that ride was incredible, man. Like it went from before the season's like, we're ready to get him out of here. Like we can't deal with these like early tournament losses anymore. To, oh my God, Coach Cal's the greatest. He's gonna be here forever. I love our freshman. Reed Shepherd's awesome. Rob Dillingham is awesome. To get this guy out of here, we got to burn it all down. To he betrayed us by leaving when we wanted him to leave.
Well,
hey, look, man, that is college sports fandom for you right there. And I promise you, Clemson fans for football, probably the same way. Oof. UConn fans for basketball, probably the same way, right? Fanta, Seton Hall fans, I don't know if they're
Oh, no. Make no mistake about it. There's a sector, they might not be the biggest fan base, but I can tell you right now, Joe and Clark, New Jersey, look up the X account, Joe and Clark, during Seton Hall basketball season. I mean, at the under 8 timeout, I think Kevin Willard got fired 78 times by Joe and Clark, and he produced NCAA tournament after NCAA tournament. So you know what? You're going to get that. Look at this Sunday if you want overreactions. The winning teams in NFL Week 1, you feel like you're planning the parade. If you lose the game, fire everyone. So it's just, but in college sports, you see a passion like no other. And here's the thing: it's most of the time on the coach and firing the coach, because people just aren't wired to rip apart 18 to 22-year-old kids. Now with NIL payments, that's going to happen more frequently than it has. But coaches are the ones who pay the price.
You mentioned that. It's a really interesting dynamic, and I'm curious your take on this, T.O. It feels very much like European professional basketball in college basketball right now, in the sense that you have guys playing for a year and then looking for that step up. And if they play for the year and they stink, then they have to go find that step down to try to move their way back up in the future. And the part to me that's really fascinating with how all of this is going to work is that, especially in college, you still have kids that are playing for draft eligibility and a potential future in the NBA. Like, you have guys that are going somewhere to get a paycheck, and they're going to have to accept a role when they go there, while at the same time realizing that I have to play well if I want to be able to hear my name called on NBA draft night, or get a chance to at a summer league appearance, or get a chance at a two-way, or whatever, like whatever your potential is as a pro. Like, you have to play well in your role, but you're also being brought in as a pro this year. Like, it's a weird, does that make sense? There's a weird dynamic in college basketball when it comes to these kids are pros, but they're also trying to prove themselves to the pros.
Yeah, that's a lot. I don't know how to necessarily respond to that. That's all true. That's all true. Guys go up, then they go down, and then ironically enough, it's not like Europe in that like you can play in the top league in arbitrary league France, go down and play in the third league in France, and then get a job right back at the top league. Like, that doesn't happen. So like the volatility of where you can go in college hoops is insane. I'd like to segue.
Well,
Go ahead.
Go ahead and segue before I'll get back to the volatility.
Yeah, the volatility is insane as far as where the players can go. Like, you can go and play in the OVC and then jump right back up to the Big 12. I'm not saying, I'm not giving a specific example, but that happens.
Briefly, 5 seconds, or the volatility of a head coach could wake up after playing golf all summer and determine that he needs a new staff.
That also true. One of the storylines you talked about, other potential storylines. I think Arizona State, an underrated freshman class there, really good. We just kind of forgot about them. The European invasion, and I bring this up because there's a couple of things that are happening that need to be regulated, and they need to be regulated quick. This Fedor Zuzic,
from
Montenegro, has played almost 200 professional games in the top league in Germany.
It's going to be a stud.
He's going to be a stud because he's been a pro for 4 years. There needs to be some regulation. That's not okay. And he's still 21 years old, I believe, Fanta.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be some guardrails because this guy's been getting paid for a while. This is not your typical 18-year-old going to get an education. That needs to be regulated, and it needs to be regulated quickly, because this is going to take opportunities away from young players here, because guys over there what's stopping Creighton from grabbing a 24-year-old guy who's been playing at Real Madrid? There's nothing stopping it. That's what's essentially happening here. This guy's been playing high-level professional hoops. It should not happen. And he's still of age, this, that, and the third. It should not happen.
No, you're not wrong about that. Like, if you have, I know.
How's it possible? How's that possible?
I don't know. I'm sure that Creighton is sitting there trying to find.
They're licking their chops because he's really freaking good.
Yeah.
And when you put him, he was really good in the Bundesliga. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't think he's going to be good in the Big East?
Oh, he'll be good in the Big East.
Oh my God, he's going to be great.
One of the best players in the league.
Yeah, he's going to be one of the best players in the league.
By the way,
and he should be, because he can buy beer over here.
Well, so
it's going to be his freshman year. It's crazy.
Okay, wait. So this is where we twist that into more compelling. Are you saying that with Fedor Zugic and Stephen Ashworth and Pop Isaacs, who was a big splash, and Ryan Kalkbrenner, that Creighton will challenge Connecticut for the Big East title?
Absolutely, they will. I think it's 1A and 1B in that league. And Zuzic, Zugic. How do you pronounce that?
We're going to find out.
You're close
Zugic.
enough.
I think it's Zugic. But like this guy.
Hold on. Why are you asking us how to pronounce the people from overseas?
I'm sitting here looking at it.
That's your lane.
I've never been to Montenegro, so everybody has different dialects. So who knows? But they like that put them over the edge.
Like, yeah, it's a big pickup. That was a needed pickup for them, and a big pickup because they had questions at that position big time. You know,
no
wasn't
longer a question.
Just all be Mason Miller, and you had genuine questions about what you were going to do on the wing. Yeah.
And as far as
this can't happen though, because you're going to take opportunities away from other people.
Yes,
like this cannot happen. Like this needs to be regulated. And the only reason I say that, and this may sound bad the way I say it, but you're taking opportunities away from 18-year-olds that, along with an IL, that's a given. Like, it's not just him. There's 60-something odd Eastern European guys that just coming over fresh this year. They're older. This isn't right. It needs to be fixed, and it's a problem.
Yeah, I I don't think that bringing players from overseas is necessarily a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. I wanted to go there. It's not a bad thing. However, like, this kid's a pro. There's a big difference. But we can move forward.
No, I'm with you on all that. Fanta, you kind of hinted at something earlier where you said getting rid of your entire staff in the offseason. I don't know if you've seen the actual latest. Okay. This statement was literally released 8 minutes ago by Memphis. Rick Stansberry, Fergie Phillips, Jamie Rosser, and Demetrius Dyson will not return to Penny Hardaway's coaching staff this year. As of Labor Day, they no longer have a place to labor. They are no longer employed by Memphis. They did not mention Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson was the first name. He was the director of analytics last year for Memphis. He was the first name that broke late on Tuesday night about leaving. Then it came out that he was going to go on a local radio show to let everybody know what was going on within the University of Memphis program. And now the guy that was first reported to be out from the Memphis coaching staff might be back on the Memphis coaching staff. There's a lot of turnover there. Penny has had 8 staff members change this offseason now. 9 if Jermaine Johnson does or does not end up coming back. There is a new AD that is 6 weeks into his tenure there. He returns 1 scholarship player off of last year's roster. Like, what the hell is happening at Memphis, and how, in a world where continuity is what brings success in college athletics, you have a guy that literally has changed everybody in the program, the entire program. And it's like the second straight year where this has happened. What the hell is happening in Memphis, fans?
What the hell is happening is the beginning of the end of the Penny Hardaway era.
Ooh.
Because he's been the head coach there for 6 years in a league that, frankly, he should now be winning every year without question. And he's accounted for what? 1 NCAA tournament win. Notice I began the conversation by speaking out the results that he's produced. Memphis Tigers fans, are your standards not higher than 1 NCAA tournament win in 6 years? Okay, so remove Penny Hardaway as the coach. Just put any coach in there. If we were discussing about any coach and we said they amount to 1 NCAA tournament win in 6 years, we would all be saying, yeah, it's not getting it done at a program like Memphis. All right, let's put in Penny Hardaway as the coach, okay? So you put in Penny Hardaway as the coach and you say, well, he is Penny Hardaway, so he gets a cushion there. Understood. It is September 4th. The season starts in 2 months. And you have 8, maybe 9 staff members that are no longer with your program. 3 or 4 of which were shown the door in the first week of September, 2 months away from the season. Those are significant red flags that say if you're having that much staff turnover, your leadership is not in a competent place. If you're having that much turnover, you've got bigger issues at play. And just going to say, when one of those staff members says he's going to go on the radio and lay it all out, and now he's not brought up in said release, that says to me, combined with all the staff turnover, that there's some things happening with this program that are far bigger issues than you releasing which staff members are no longer part of the staff, in addition to the fact that there's no way that you're going to be able to fill out a complete staff. Because if I'm any staff member of any program right now in college basketball, there is no chance I am taking that phone call to even work as the 8th man on that bench for Penny Hardaway when I know what the inevitable is. Guys, we know how this movie ends. Whether it ends this season or next, it's going to end with Memphis making a coaching change. Because at the end of the day, you have 18 to 22-year-olds walking into that building, some 23, some 24-year-olds, walking into that building every day. And right now, there are a ton of vacant offices and a Penny Hardaway trying to be Norman Dale in Hoosiers. That's not how college basketball works in 2024. This is absolutely ridiculous. If it were happening in May or April, we wouldn't be talking about it. It's September, and we're making staff changes. Newsflash. You're supposed to be working throughout the spring on this stuff. Not show up back. It's not back to school for the coaches.
T.O., you got anything there?
No, I don't. He knocked it out. There's not a ton to say there. It's just confusing to me, the whole thing. Like, this is obviously somebody coming in there throwing their weight around. And I don't know who it is, whether it's the new AD, whether it's all that's like, there's something happening to where you don't just do this. There's more to this story. You don't just do this 2 months out.
Mhm.
There's more to this story that I think will come out later. I don't know that, but it's just so
I'm
odd.
curious. So Rick Stansbury's gone. He's the guy that recruited a lot of these transfers to coming into the program, right? I'm very interested to see what ends up happening with him and some of the guys that he brought in, right? Like, does the roster?
Oh, the kids are locked in now.
Yeah, but do they? But they may. Are they going to stay? Will they leave? Like, is this something where I'm not saying that they will end up going to another college basketball program? Like, that's one of the ones that's a little bit of a red flag to me. And I will say this, like, Fan, I just I'll let you go in a second. But I was a Penny apologist, right? Like, I was the guy that was up here saying the job that he did in the first 4 to 5 years of his tenure was something that was underrated nationally, right? Like, I was the guy that pushed back on every single time that Goodman had one of his takes about how Penny was doing this or Penny was doing that. So let me just bring it up so I can roll through it real quick. In 2019, his first year, they won 22 games, right? In 2020, they went 21-10. That was the year where James Wiseman, the start of the season, ended up having that thing where, like, they had to go to court and he was ruled ineligible and all that stuff happened, right? In 2021, the COVID year, they ended up winning the NIT that season. They went to the NIT. They were a top 30 team in college basketball that, because of weird COVID scheduling things and because they lost on 2 buzzer beaters to Houston, did not have a profile that was good enough to get into the NCAA tournament, right? I thought he did a really good coaching job in those first 3 years. 2022, the Amani Bates season. It looked like that thing was going to be an abject disaster in December and January, and he found a way to turn it around, got them playing their best basketball towards the end of the season, and then outplayed a Gonzaga team that had Drew Timme and
It was Jalen Duren and those guys.
Yeah, it was that Jalen Duren team. I forget who. I think it was the Chet Holmgren, Drew Timme Gonzaga team. They outplayed them for 30 minutes and ended up losing by like 8, but they outplayed them for 30 minutes in the second round of the tournament. 2023, they were one jump ball away from having a chance to beat an FAU team, where in the second round of the tournament, they would have gotten Fairleigh Dickinson and set themselves up for a position where they could have been the team that made the run that FAU made, right? Like, so I think he did a great job those 5 years. Then you had all the turnover last season. You start out, you're a top 10 team after a couple game winners from Javon Quinterly. The bottom completely falls out last year, right? And now you turn everybody over again, and now you turn over your entire coaching staff. Like, I think that this season is an incredibly important one for the Penny Hardaway era and the long-term viability of him as the Memphis head coach. And this is it's a horrible way to start that out.
Yeah,
he's never won less than 20 games.
Mm-hmm.
That's the crazy part about the whole thing. Like, even with like the volatility of the program, he's never lost more. He's never won less than 20 games, which is kind of the other side of this. Like, if you're in a bigger league and you still are winning 20 games, you're in a tournament most of those years, but you're not in a bigger league. You're in the American.
You know, our friend Kevin Sweeney said, good coaching staffs or good well-run programs don't have this type of staff change in September. And I responded, I texted Kevin this morning. I said, poorly run programs don't have this type of staff turnover in September. Yeah. So for me, it's not ripping Penny. It's not.
Penny.
What's that?
It's ripping Penny.
Well, but I'm saying it's not like a personal agenda that I have against Penny.
No. Good point.
It's just there's no personal agenda here. I actually think Penny Hardaway has done a fair job to good job up until this point. Penny, you're showing people the door in September. How many jobs are open, Rob, for these people?
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
That's crappy, man. You just fired a bunch of people who can't go anywhere. All these people are going to be living at home. this upcoming season. They're not going to go work for anybody. If they do, it's going to be on a minimum wage as a special advisor. All I'm going to say is this. Memphis did hire a new athletic director, and his name is Ed Scott. And he came from Virginia. And that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Little bit of a different approach.
I'm laughing at the idea of Rick Stansbury earning minimum wage somewhere while trying to be the guy that what is Goodman's line? The smart money is always on Stansbury.
Yeah.
So, man. All right. I gave you guys a couple of other homework assignments here. I want to talk about. We're gonna get to the UConn Big 12 stuff at the end because I have a rant and we can end the show on my little rant here. I want to know the player you're most excited to see that is not, I don't want to hear like the Cooper Flagg, it's not like the biggest name guys. Like who, Tio, I'll start with you because you seem to be able to dig up some of these gems. Like who is the guy in college basketball this year that you're really excited to see, whether it's the leap that he's going to take, the role that he's going to be in this year? Like who's on that list for you?
The guy I wrote down, it's mostly freshmen, but it's another guy is VJ Edgecombe.
Mm-hmm.
The guy at Baylor who had a terrific summer, not a good summer, a terrific summer, played for the Bahamian national team, played really, really well alongside some NBA guys that almost qualified for the Olympics. They were that close. And he was kind of the name that came out of their, I guess, region or bracket or whatever, that everybody was like, holy cow, this guy's different. That's going to be interesting to see. There's so many transfers and so much movement. I'm also excited to see Xavier Booker, if he's able to take a step forward. This was a super highly recruited guy at Michigan State. It's told me a lot, guys, that he decided to come back after not playing.
Mm-hmm.
So like that told me a lot about the kid, told me a lot about what Izzo's bringing. I think he's going to take a step forward. There's so many good players this year in college hoops. That's going to be the fun thing. And then this is also, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the last COVID year.
Yes.
Yep, it is.
Thank
last
God.
COVID year.
So this is the last like super concentration of older players. This is the last year all that's going to happen. So power will return back to the freshmen next season, but this season it's going to be a lot of older guys, much of the same. It's going to be fun to watch.
I did my homework, Rob, and I've come up with 3 for you.
Okay.
Number 1 is a total gem, and you had to be a hardcore viewer to know the name, but he is a really multifaceted player, and I think he's going to be a perfect fit for Tommy Lloyd. His name is Anthony Del Orso.
Yeah.
And he transferred from Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
This kid is a bucket. He's got a European flair to his game. He's from Australia. He plays, the game just slows down for him. He's got this ability to move the basketball in a really unique way. Stylistically, I think he is going to be really, really fun to watch this upcoming season. Second player, Derek Queen at Maryland. In the DMV, this is a big get. This is a big get for Kevin Willard.
Massive.
Derek Queen is going to be the starting 5 for this team. You know, he and Julian Reese are going to team up, and Reese is a stud. Julian is one of the best bigs in the Big Ten coming in this season. So how does Derek Queen fit into the equation there?
You know where he's from, Fana?
Where is Mr. Queen from?
In the words of Randolph Childress, Baltimore, Maryland.
Yep.
Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Maryland.
That's right. I mean, this Baltimore kid who I think is going to be phenomenal for them. And then number 3, I'm going to give this guy some love. I think the 3 of us know how good he is. I really want the country to know how good he is this year. So it's not like he hasn't shown us his capabilities, but I am excited to see year 2 of Josh Hubbard at Mississippi State.
Yes, that's a good one.
At Mississippi State. America, if you don't know the name Josh Hubbard, go on YouTube and look up some highlights. He's electrifying. The Bulldogs can be a top 25 team again under Chris Jans. How about the job Chris Jans has done at Mississippi State?
Did anyone doubt that Chris Jans was going to find a way to be able to get it done? I don't think anyone doubted that. Like that dude could just coach his nuts off. And I mean that in the most respectful way that you could possibly say someone can coach their nuts off.
How about the fact that Josh Hubbard, who can't be, I mean, he's listed at 5'10", there's no way. playing alongside Kanye Clary, who's 5'11". So
electric, dude.
It's going to
so
be
much fun.
Give so many headaches to these coaches because everybody tries to recruit these 6'4", 6'5" guards because you want to be big and positionless. That's all cute until you got to bring the ball up against a dude who's 5'9" who will not leave it alone. It is so uncomfortable to play against guys like that. That's going to be awesome. One guy, and just because I'm on my Mountain West kick, Javen Buchanan, who transferred from a Division II school to Boise State, is really good. And I'm excited to see how it translates there. There's so many good players this year.
I love that you're like, yeah, Boise State's got this D2 kid. I can't wait to see him play.
Boise State beat a bunch of guys like high major, like power forward.
T.O., all I'm going to say is I'm revoking your status as a Big East guy. You are officially
huge Mountain West guy.
You're officially Mountain West guy. Only a Mountain West guy these days.
No, that's not true. I was actually, you say that. I'm ready for Thunder and Lightning at St. John's too.
Well, look, the guy that
Devon Smith and Kadary Richmond.
Yeah. So there's, I had a couple names. I had a couple
Thunder
names
and Lightning
down. Two of them, I'm really curious what they can be. They were kind of the Robin to a Superman last year, and I'm curious what Braden Smith and Cam Jones will be in a bigger role as kind of the more of the face of their programs. I'm really, really excited to see how Khalif Battle fits at Gonzaga. I think if Khalif Battle can buy into the idea of being the spark plug sixth man off the bench for that program, that they are going to find a way to be able to compete for a national. I think, to me, Gonzaga is closer to being in that conversation for the top 3 teams in America than they are being like the outside the top 10. I think they're going to be very, 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 very good this year. And then the last guy I had written down was Kadary Richmond. Like, if you could take a human being and give them the specific attributes that will be the best that can fit into a Rick Pitino defense and a Rick Pitino system, what you do is you build Kadary Richmond. That's what you do. You take Kadary Richmond and you put him in a Rick Pitino defense and you let him kind of get out there and pressure and you let him play that like 2-2-1 junk defense and you let him kind of do the things that he could do best playing for Rick Pitino, who, by the way, will not tolerate any of, let's just say, the red flags that have been around Kadary in the past, right? Like, I think that he is going to have an unbelievable season. And I think that there is the potential that he could end up being Big East Player of the Year for a team that ends up being top 25. And I also think that there's the potential that this thing can go completely belly up and St. John's can finish under 500 because they don't have any shooting anywhere on that roster. But I cannot wait to see it. Like, I think Kadary Richmond is going to be so much fun playing a Rick Pitino system.
I like DePaul's roster too.
By the way, did you get the text that I sent you? Yeah, you're who was the guy at DePaul that you loved a couple of years ago? You texted us.
Brutal. So
Fisher?
Caleb Murphy.
He got hurt. He didn't ever really get to play. Different ordeal. Bryce Hopkins coming back from an ACL.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one. Wesley Cardette, how does he go along with some of these guys that are coming back? Providence is going to be good.
Yeah, and look out.
And I can't wait to hear all that bullshit.
Look out for Zach Fremantle, Undertaker style, coming out of the casket here. You got Davion McKnight back at point. Look out for Ryan Conwell. Sean Miller is extremely high on him. Folks, there's 2 coaches in America you shouldn't bet on to have a second straight bad year. Okay?
Sean's one of them.
Sean Miller's one of them, and the other is Mick Cronin.
Mm-hmm.
Which is ironic because, Rob, you asked us, one of your homework assignments was for something underrated about the sport this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one. Xavier Cincinnati is back.
Yes.
Miller, the 2 Millers, Sean and Wes, here we go. Because the Bearcats finally got a team that's going to be a dark horse in the Big 12. UC basketball, you've got life. Fifth Third Arena has not been shaking in quite some time. Get ready. We're going to be talking about Cincinnati this year.
Yes, they are very good. They have there is no backcourt in America that has better names than Cincinnati's backcourt. Jizzle James and Day Thomas.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Jizzle James and Day Thomas.
Oof, they're good. That awesome names. Awesome names. Also,
Jizzle James and Day Thomas. They'll have UC fans.
Whoa! Whoa. Dan Skillings at Cincinnati. Whew. He's also really good. That's a good roster. They put together a really nice roster there. Really nice roster.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay booster too from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Meanest front court to Big East. And that's a tough league with a lot of really good front. The meanest one's got to be Xavier, though. You alluded to it. And John Hughley.
Oh, that's
a bad man, too. Him, Fremantle, Hunter. Oh, my gosh.
All right. Can I give you guys a hot take?
Yeah.
Give it to us.
The player that nobody is talking anywhere about enough, who I think will have a chance to end up being not only a top 3 pick in this year's draft, but a guy that can kind of sneak onto an All-American team where we will be talking about him as like, this is the guy, like this is the player that could carry this team to the Final Four, to the second weekend of the tournament. You guys ready for this?
Ready.
Egor Demin at BYU. I think that he is a 6'9", 6'10", point guard / wing. The BYU staff is already raving about him. I think he is more athletic than people realize. He's going to catch a couple bodies this year, T.O. They put him in ball screen actions. He can pass the ball. He can shoot it a little bit. I think that he has a chance to end up being someone where we look at him in February and we're like, how come more people weren't on this bandwagon earlier? And how did he end up at BYU of all places?
Hey, BYU is going to be a national brand sooner rather than later. And if they're not already, but it's about to get real interesting there because there's a lot of money and they love sports.
And they'll put 22,000 screaming blonde hair, blue eyed,
frustrated
maniacs into the Marriott Center every single night there in Salt Lake City. Give me your first team All-Americans, because we had a conversation about this a little bit earlier, but is Cooper Flagg? I guess let's start with this. And Fandel, we'll go to you first since you.
I think we all have Cooper Flagg on our All-American team. Or am I right?
Well, do you have him first team, second team? He's somewhere. I'm just curious, like where you have him, Fanta.
So I have Mark Sears.
Yep.
RJ Davis.
Yep.
Hunter Dickinson.
Yep.
Caleb Love.
Yeah.
And Alex Caravan.
Okay. So I had 6. I added Caleb Love, Caravan. I feel like they're neck and neck, but I put Cooper Flagg in there. But all the other, I mean, exact same, just
Dude,
Cooper Flagg.
No, like no.
Yeah.
No, it's an All-American.
Players.
Yes.
It's All-American.
There's like, yes. This is what we're doing now. It's participation season. I'm going 6. I got 6. I actually, the Caravan, Caleb Love, if I had to give the benefit of the doubt, it'd probably be Caleb Love. But Cooper Flagg there. And then Alex Caravan being number 6.
Okay. I have Cooper Flagg on my first team All-American team. I also have RJ Davis. I also have Mark Sears. I also have Hunter Dickinson. I have Alex Caravan. Okay, I have Caleb Love third team. And the reason I have Caleb Love third team is I'm a little bit down on what Arizona will be this year. I think that there's a couple too many bets on guys taking big leaps, and I don't know if there actually is a point guard on that roster. I would have guards in front of Caleb Love. I would have Braden Smith in front of him. I would have Cam Jones in front of him. I would have Nelly Davis in front of him. I'd have Hunter Salas in front of him. I'd have Taman Lipsey in front of him, and I'd have Kadari Richmond in front of him. I have Caleb Love as the 13 preseason All-American. But
That's a wild take.
I think there are
Pac-12 Player of the Year last year. He's going to be first team without a doubt, and he averaged 18 points a game last year.
Okay. I think that every other guy that I mentioned might not have the same stats, but will contribute more to winning than Caleb Love will.
So, yeah, I mean, look, that's a lot of play, but see, this is the difference here. Sometimes when we're voting on this stuff, not all the players contribute to winning.
That's a fact.
You could be an All-American player, but not contribute to winning. This is kind of where my Hunter Dickinson's take stems from, of the spotlight that was on Zach Edey last year. Nothing could be on the same degree on one individual player, but I am putting that spotlight on Dickinson, because to me, if you've had the career that he's had, All-American accolades, you were at Michigan and now Kansas, you're playing for one of the greatest to ever do it in Bill Self. Is the expectation not to be leading the Jayhawks to the Final Four?
Yeah, absolutely.
They have the roster. Holy smokes.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, when you're Hunter Dickinson and you're in your 5th year and you've been like, what, a 4-time All-American at this point, 3-time All-American, the expectation is always going to be on you getting your team to the Final Four. When you are at Kansas, the expectation is always going to be you get to a Final Four because you're freaking Kansas, right? So when you combine those two things together with the fact that they got DeJuan Harris, who is like probably tell me if I'm wrong here, the single best winner in the sport of college basketball. Like nobody does more winning. But what was your line about Devin Carter, T.O.? He just does winning shit.
He just does winning shit. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what DeJuan Harris does. And I don't think that there's a guy that does more winning shit than DeJuan Harris this year. You got scorers, you got shooters, you fix some of the holes that you have. You got the best glue guy in college basketball and KJ Adams. Like all the pieces are there. And oh, by the way, that guy, Bill Self, I think he knows a little bit about
coaching. Pissed. Yes. He's pissed. I love it.
So, yeah, I think a lot of pressure rides on Hunter Dickinson, but I think it's also something where he's not like, if he has to do it all, then a lot of shit went wrong for Kansas. Does that make sense? Like he's going to be the focal point, but he's going to be at his best if everybody else if there's like 6 guys averaging double figures and he's at like 17 and 10, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Hey, another storyline. Can I throw this in there?
Yeah.
Villanova. Like, we're gonna have to figure it out over there, Kyle. Like, how patient are they going to be? That's another big one to me. I'm clicking through all my stuff, and I just saw Villanova.
Well, they're hiring a new AD here, so their AD just left for Northwestern.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That hire will tell you some things.
In terms of big men on All-American teams, it was very close for me between Hunter Dickinson, Janai Broome, and Ryan Kalkbrenner. And I think that
Kalkbrenner to me is the one that I would, if I had to switch, have we really appreciated Ryan Kalkbrenner to the extent of what we needed to? Because it feels like he's so good and we just haven't embraced him. Like, without a doubt should be preseason big. Yeah, we have, but preseason player of the year in the Big East without question. And like, should he be first team? Oh, yes. Are we putting too big of an emphasis on offense? Because defensively, he's been the most impactful big man in the country for how many years? 2?
He has shot at least 64% from the floor. Now I know he's a 7'1" big man, but
he might be taller than that.
He's threatening for the all-time NCAA career field goal percentage mark.
Yeah.
Like you might have a career field goal percentage mark of 66, 67% when it's all said and done. Yeah. Last year, I mean, they don't win the Oregon game without him. That was just an insane basketball game. One of the best games in the NCAA tournament. And Fali Dante just dunked again in that game. But for me, like, you know, I look at Janai Broome is an interesting case because I don't feel like he.
Hold on Calc real quick. I'm going to put that into context for you, right?
Yeah.
This is
Ridiculous.
season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. This is season 15 for Greg McDermott at Creighton, right? Before Ryan Kalkbrenner got there in the 2020-21 season, he had never had a team that ranked higher than 46th defensively on KenPom, right? Kalkbrenner's first season there, Creighton ranked 32nd defensively. The last 3 years where Creighton has been competing for Big East championships and probably the best version that we've ever seen of Creighton in the Greg McDermott era these last 3 years.
No, best ever.
I say that with all due respect to the Doug McDermott teams. I think these last 3 have been, especially the last 2, have been as good as we've ever seen Creighton be. They were top 25 defensively all 3 years. Greg McDermott is not a guy that's known as being a defensive coach. He's not a guy. We give him all the credit in the world for being an offensive genius and some of the stuff he puts together. They've been top 25 defensively each of the last 3 seasons because of Kalkbrenner's presence. And you're 100% right, T.O. I think he's the most underappreciated star, underappreciated great player in college basketball. That's a great.
And he is a 3-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year. I believe I'm right. I will check this. There's never been a 4. Never.
Because they don't last 5 years.
They don't usually last that long. So to be a 4-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year is just absurd. He is in the Big East Player of the Year race. I mean, that race is interesting. You got Kalkbrenner, you got Alex Karaban, you got Cam Jones. But yes, put respect on Ryan Kalkbrenner's name. It's a joy. It's a joy that we get to watch him another season. Creighton's going to be really, really, really good, and Kalkbrenner is elite. I mean, he is an unbelievable rim protector.
He never fouls. He never fouls.
Am I wrong for saying this? Okay, I really think Janai Broome is a good player because of where Auburn stands. And I think they could be, I think they're 2nd or 3rd in the SEC heading into this year. Feel free to push against me on that. But I just feel like Broome doesn't get enough juice at all. Is there a reason why, other than he's playing for Auburn and not a blue blood? Is it how Auburn plays with their guards?
I think
it's overshadowed.
Yeah, I think it's the way that they play. I think it's the fact that he's in a program where the biggest star is going to be the biggest personality, aka Bruce Pearl, and the fact that he's kind of the steady Eddie in the sense where when you talk about Auburn, you talk about, we know what you're going to get from Janai Broome. Whether or not they win at a certain level depends on what you get from their guards, because it's so important for Bruce Pearl to have that really big scoring lead guard. I think that, to me, that's what it is. It's just kind of when you got a guy where he's going to get 17 and 9 every single night, it kind of limits what what there is to talk about there. I don't know, T.O., if you have a different opinion.
I don't. He's good. He just there's nothing super duper flashy about his game, and it's, to be honest with you, it's not even that it's not flashy. It's just kind of he's so productive, but it's kind of strange to watch. I don't know. I don't know. He deserves more attention.
Yep, I'll give you that too. All right, can we get into this UConn Big 12 thing real quick? I don't know. I don't know if you have anything. I don't want to put you. Can you give the least educated person on this one? Let me go first, and then I'll just get out of the way and let you guys ISO. I found it really funny that one of the stories that came out was, well, their football is not good enough, and this is after UConn gave a presentation, obviously, and they're like, well, if they get a bowl, we'll revisit next year, which is just hearsay and what I've read on the internet. And then they go out and get smacked by Maryland 50-7. It's not looking good. I think it's ridiculous. I think UConn basketball is in a position that it's in because it's back in the Big East. Now, obviously, being in the Big East isn't going to keep them there, but I do feel like it got them back to a point to where they could be successful again. So I don't want to take anything away, but I also don't know how well this would have gone if they stayed in the American. Does that make sense? So yeah. No, you made the point last year. Yep. The UConn didn't save the Big East. The Big East saved UConn. That's Bingo. Why they're at the spot. And finally, I know I don't want to put you in a bad spot because of the work that you do with the Big East and with Fox, but if you have anything to add before I kind of go on my little soliloquy here, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that what this comes down to is what many have said, but I'll bring up. UConn leadership is looking at the bottom line and a home for football. And in a football-driven world, this is the reality of the situation. If the proposal, and this is strictly my opinion, if the proposal was for Connecticut football to join next year, I would get the viability of it. Fellas, we don't know what leagues are going to look like in 2031. We don't even know what the world's going to look like in 2031, frankly. So the fact of the matter is that's a very, very long time to sell out for your football program. And nobody's arguing with the strength of Big 12 basketball. I think it's the best league in the country, top to bottom. And I'm in the Northeast, to all those people who think that I don't respect programs out West. So plenty of respect for the Big 12. I think it's the best league from top to bottom. That being said, there's just no way that for Connecticut basketball, for them to have the same amount of presence and juice to their matchups in their league that they currently have in the Big East. The financial aspect, you're not going to get an argument for. But what I would say is this. UConn is in their best basketball home right now.
Yes.
And there's a reason why they've won back-to-back national championships. And for those who are that concerned about their finances and whether or not they're going to be able to pay people, I would simply counter with, there's a million other schools, some of which are in the leagues that we're speaking of, that are dealing with the same exact problems of how they're going to afford all this. UConn has something going for them that the other places don't. They're a state school, and state budgets dip into the pocketbook all the time and go in that four-letter word that starts with a D and ends with EBT, and they have no problem being in debt. So for Connecticut, do I understand why they're having the conversation? Yeah. Do I blame Brett Yormark for having the conversation? Not in the least bit. Brett Yormark's trying to do what's best for his league. And he wants them for basketball. He wants them for basketball. Brett wants to grow Big 12 basketball in a big way. But it's kind of one of those things where you invite two people to a dinner, guys, and the two people have totally different agendas. And the person in the middle is going to try to reach this collective vision that's his own. To me, this is still a ways from happening.
Yeah, and it's not. Look, it's not.
If it even does.
It's not UConn's decision. Like, there's been plenty of reporting on this. It's going to come down to whether the Big 12 presidents and the people at these schools that are already in that league vote to allow UConn to come in and take a slice of the pie that they already have going, right? And you can get the nitty-gritty financial details and analysis elsewhere. Like that's not my concern, right? For all the people, every time I tweet about this, like I have 8 million UConn fans in my mentions being like, you have the worst takes. You don't understand anything about realignment. It's like, no, dude, I get all of the shit. I understand why UConn is interested in this. I understand why they want to go to the Big 12. I understand what David Benedict is trying to do here, right? You're looking for a home for football. You want to get in a Power 4 league in football. You want a seat at the table when like college athletics inevitably is going to cannibalize itself and end up being like a 2 or 3 team or 2 or 3 conference entity, right? Like, I understand all of that. I'm not fucking stupid, okay? But what I will say is that there is something special about Big East basketball, right? Like,
there is.
There is. It's this wonderful little corner of American sports where you have teams that play each other in a true round robin. Every single Big East team plays the other Big East team in their road arena. And like, there's a level of hatred between a lot of these schools and their fan bases where you're close enough that you can drive to each other's home arenas, right? Like, UConn fans can go to games at Seton Hall. They can go to games at St. John's. They can go to games at Providence, right? If Providence fans can get into the XL Center. They could go to games when Providence is playing at UConn, right? Like it's one of the beautiful little quirks of this sport that still exists in a place where it's not everything is financially motivated, right? And the thing that drives me insane when it comes to college athletics right now, and to be fair, like we kind of opened the Pandora's box when we started paying the players. And now that revenue sharing is coming, I get it. You got to find a way to be able to afford all of this stuff. I understand it. But what drives me nuts is that doing the right thing, right? Allowing players to be able to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness and make money in a billion-dollar industry. What that has done is allowed all of these people who aren't necessarily fans of the sport and are people that are involved in the sport and are more worried about being able to capitalize as much as they can for the company, for the network, for the university, for whoever they work for. What they are worried about is making as much money as possible at the cost of what makes the thing so great for the people that consume it, right? And it's just probably an inevitability that college athletics is going to become like major professional sports just at the minor league level, right? Like I get that. That's where we're heading. It is what it is. But it sucks that what's going to happen is you're going to blow up something that's so cool in Big East basketball and what it has become in this second generation. Did anyone think it was going to get back to this? Did we ever think that once it blew up in 2013, we were going to get back to a place where you had 4 of the last 8 national champions coming from the Big East, where you had a brand like UConn and a brand like Villanova, and you had the rivalry between Providence and Georgetown that is something that's national, where you had Rick Pitino coaching at a program that hasn't been relevant in 25 years at St. John's, right? Like the Big East is back. And because people need to find a way to be able to make money to afford a football program that I couldn't give 2 shits about, right? I don't think I've watched a Connecticut football game in 3 decades of my life. I've never sat down to search it out. It's not what the majority of UConn fans care about.
Well,
and we're going to blow all of this up, and you're going to leave this for something where you get to play at Flagg Fieldhouse every other year to be able to make a little bit more money, right? Like it drives me nuts. And I hate that this is where college athletics is at. And I understand that this is a result of pushing to allow players to be able to make money, which was the right thing to do. But it's allowed people that don't have the best interest of the sport and the fans and the consumers to come in and be able to try to line their pockets. And it sucks, man. It sucks. It's all the great things about the sport are going to go out the window. And at the end of the day, you're still going to get UConn basketball playing. You're still going to be able to get some really fun matchups against some of these programs, but it's not going to be the same as what the Big East is. And if you can't see that, just go back and look at the failed venture to the American and how excited everybody was when UConn came back.
I appreciate the rant. I don't know if it's doomsday. I do think that, look, Jay Wright's not walking in that door at Villanova, as Tio brought up earlier on the show. And Jay Wright kept the Big East propped up in 2016 and 18. Nobody's going to deny that. But the whole mantra of the Big East is that they've been able to stand the test of time. There's been far worse for the league in its history than if UConn leaves again. It's a big blow. There's no question it's a significant blow. Nobody's going to deny that. But I'll tell you what, if UConn does this, they're going to look very different in men's basketball and in women's basketball.
And to be clear, that's what I'm worried. Like the Big East is
the remnants of the Big East will.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Big East will figure out a way to forge on. They have Madison Square Garden and now a 3-network television deal that they just agreed to that will get altered if a school leaves. But for me, what I will say is this: Merrimack went to Air Force and gave them a game this past weekend. If Merrimack can do that at Air Force on the other side of the country, UConn football, it best be in your interest to make sure you avoid a loss to FCS Merrimack this weekend. Because if that happens, you're going to be a lot closer to the other end of the spectrum than you will be to going into the Big 12. I'm just saying, real-time results do matter. This Saturday, I'm not calling anything. I don't want anything, I hope that the Husky faithful out there enjoy their time. It's a very important game for that program because, guys, these presidents are all watching these football games.
Hell yeah.
And T.O., you said they saw 50-7 against Maryland. You can lose 50-7 to Maryland. You can't lose to a program that's at a different division than you are. So that is a little headline for this weekend while you're all watching Texas and Michigan. By the way, hook 'em. Free pick from me. Give me Texas Saturday.
Seems like a pretty easy pick.
Are we back next week?
Huh?
Are we back next week now? Are we weekly?
Yeah, let's do it, man. We're in. Whenever you guys, whenever T.O. is bored and he says, Rob, I need to talk to somebody. You know what I'll do? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to text Maria. I'm going to say, let me know when T.O. is driving you crazy. And
I got juiced. The Louisville trip got me fired up, and now I can't turn it off.
Yeah. All right, listen, guys.
I propose that college basketball starts September 29th.
I don't hate it, man. Look, I don't hate it. You know what that would do? That would mean that I don't have to do this entire media day rodeo, which is good. Like, I say that jokingly. Like, I'm really excited to put all this.
You guys are coming down. You guys are coming down to Greenville.
I'll be in Greenville. I'll
Come
be
to the
in
house.
Charlotte. I'll be in Sioux Falls. I'm going to be in Sioux Falls twice in the span of 4 weeks. We are going to be in Vegas for a media day. I don't want to say specifically what it's going to be because we got to make sure all the T's and the Q's, or the P's and the Q's and the T, whatever it is. We got to make sure
the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
Yes. And
fucking get our alphabet right, Rob.
Yes.
What are we doing?
I just want to make sure that the ink is dry on the contracts. And once it is, we will come out. We will let you guys know where exactly we were going to be. But as of right now, we are going to be live at 6 different media days. We are going to be streaming 5 more remotely. And from October 1st to October 22nd, we are going to be having somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 hours of content when it comes to specifically college basketball. So buckle up, man. Lots of previews coming. I got to start researching. I got to start studying. T.O., if you want to break down a couple of these leagues for me so I can be ready to go, man. I'll
send my stuff over.
Perfect. Let's do it. Fellas, always a pleasure. Great seeing you guys. T.O., I love when you get fired up. Fana, now that it is almost noon, I think it's about time you can open up that bottle of Prosecco over your left shoulder right there. So, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
For the Browns on Sunday.
For the Browns on Sunday.
There we go. Beat the Cowboys.
All right, give me an official prediction, Fana. What do you got for Sunday for your Browns?
They beat Dallas on a walk-off field goal. Dustin Hopkins delivers. Great game. I think it will be a very good game. I am going to go total twist, because I've been so out on Deshaun Watson and this working out. I don't know why. It might just be a facade, a week 1 facade. I just got a gut feeling that him and Dak have a game. We just see them go back and forth, and we see a game come down to the wire, and Cleveland wins at home. And Mike McCarthy, the Sharks are circling. Come on, Dallas in a big spot, 425 Sunday. Give me the Browns at home.
Theo, how good does it feel that the ACC is now officially a basketball conference again?
Didn't feel good when I was watching it. That's for damn sure. But hey, Miami's really good. Did you guys get a chance to watch that game when they beat the dog out of Florida?
Hey, did you see all the Miami players?
Yeah,
walking out of.
They've done that for years, though. That's not something new. They've done that for years.
Going to all
they win.
They talk to all the recruits. That was really funny. Being like, hey, don't go to Florida.
Guys,
see us in Miami.
Penny Hardaway has hired Dabo Swinney.
Oh man, Dabo better get his transfer portaling up.
You know how big a pay cut that would be?
Large, very large. Fellas, it's been a pleasure.